Notwithstanding, I will also move with the obligation to the Liberian people that it is also good that I've come, having been bona fide member of the Forum for the Establishment of the War Crime Code in Liberia, and coming here too will be better to elucidate some of the things that people need to know in this country that were hidden, that disappear in history of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I commence. Presentation by Bleaju, former spokesman for the Movement for Democracy in Liberia at the TRC Institutional and Thematic Hearing of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Centennial Memorial Pavilion. Mr. Chairman and honorable ladies and gentlemen of the TRC Truth and Reconciliation Commission, representatives of the various youth organizations, my indigenous mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters in Radio Land, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I greet you in the name of the lasting peace and good governance. I am certainly delighted and privileged to be allowed to participate in the Truth and Reconciliation Thematic Hearing today. Before introducing myself, who I am, and to elucidate the role I have played in the Liberian crisis, my experiences and encounters since 1979 to 2003. I must sincerely say from my heart, first of all, that I'm sorry. I'm sorry from my heart for my participation in the war and my involvement with the two fighting groups, the Armed Forces of Liberia and the Movement for Democracy in Liberia model. I'm sorry because life and property were destroyed, leaving many people homeless, and the physical disability of former combatants and armless civilians in our country. I say I'm sorry to that woman who, because of the war, her child had entered into prostitution. I say I'm sorry to that money man or woman who, because of the war, had become poor, and the poor became rich overnight at the expense of the innocent blood. I say I'm sorry for that business entity, which because of the war came down to nothing. I say I'm sorry to that family-to-family indifferences, town and quarters disputes, and inter-tribal conflicts our country have made, our war has made the country to suffer. Greatly, I am sorry for my very self. To disobey God, may the Lord have mercy upon me. For I was called to ministry to minister in the church, trained as a pastor, and awarded certificate and diploma from the Monrovia Bible Training Center and BTC, and also ordained by Bishop Everly S. Manso of the Everlasting Salvation Ministry International Incorporated, based in Holland and France. Let God forgive me. Ladies and gentlemen in Radio Land, I am former Rebel General Boy, Bleaju Boy, and military spokesman / co-chairman for the Movement for Democracy in Liberia model. I am also a field grade officer of the Armed Forces of Liberia, a former Allied Force commander of the Executive Marching Guard Battalion, a former military aide to the Army Chief of Staff, a former planning and training officer of the 7th Battalion AFL, commonly known as Airborne Battalion, a former executive officer of the 4th Infantry Battalion Armed Forces of Liberia, a military aide to the 6-man council, especially destroyer detail, a former chaplain of the Armed Forces of Liberia, chaplaincy, a former member of the 27-member Presidential Commission for the formulation of guidelines and policy for the restructuring and formation of the new army. Educational background. I am a 1987-88 graduate of the Zetro Multilateral High School, achieved certificate and diploma. Also, a diploma achieved in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCNJ, 1991-92. I achieved certificate and diploma in gospel ministry. With the stature in the things of God, I hold a degree, BA. I'm a born again. Regarding, I am presently sophomore student of the University of Liberia Business College, reading management, major in public administration minor. Boy, Bleaju boy, involvement in the Armed Forces of Liberia. I was inducted, I repeat, I was inducted in the Armed Forces of Liberia in July of 1979 on Special Order number 9 as a musician, to be specific, in the band unit. By which time, my late father, Captain Boy Bebo, was assigned with the late President William Arotoba as a special attendant. Before President Toba, my father was with President William V.S. Tubman as a special bodyguard. When Tubman died, my father, President Toba, took my father for his performance and trusted him. While we were still rehearsing our band skill at the Barclay Training Center, BTC, President Toba visited Bensonville on the 9th of April 1980. While the President and his team of officers were visiting the province of Bentor, General Charles Riley called my late father to acknowledge the Commander-in-Chief, TRC, to come down to Monrovia because the Progressive Alliance of Liberia PAC supporters were planning a mass demonstration on the 11th of April 1980, which was on Friday, to be specific. That very day, both the President and my father left for Monrovia to the Executive Mansion. My father, Captain Boy, was on first shift, which ran from 8:00 a.m. to 4 p.m. Because of Major leprosy illness, the commander of the second shift, Captain Boy, my father, was called by President Toba to still serve that Friday, the 11th of April 1980. My late father, Captain Boy, accorded with the President. Subsequently, Colonel Willie G. Dennis, the executive officer of the Marching Guard Battalion at the time, called my father to be aware that there were some unusual activities around the executive marshal. Within that time, my late father had already asked the late President Topple to get something at his house to be back immediately. While he was on his way back to get to the president's suite floor, he came across some group of enlisted men asking him to join them to make their coup successful. My father said he could not betray the oath that he took to protect the president and the state. In that movement, he was killed before reaching the president. After they have killed my father, they overpowered the president and killed him as well. Mr. Victoria Topple was arrested and confined behind the executive mansion, where I was detained as well as prisoner. Private First Class PFC Harry S. Johnson, one of the senior members of the People Redemption Council, who later became captain and further commissioned as lieutenant colonel, was one of my uncles who participated in the 1980 coup. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson negotiated my release from jail on the 11th of April on Sunday morning. When I was released, immediately I moved towards the executive garden, where the progressives and the TRC members were arranging government, where the progressives and the TRC government were arranging government, not seated, not positioned rightly, but standing up rushfully, making a government. When I got there, I asked permission from Father Evani, may his soul rest in peace, to help me request my father's body. As I approached them, I appealed to them and they refused and told me that my father and the president will be buried together. My father died with power and defended the Constitution. Yet today, when the Topple returns, the children of Topple return, the name written on the mass grave, my father's name, were omitted. Why should my father die and he is not recognized for his loyalty? Nani goes saying, and I quote, "If no one recognizes me to comfort me, I will comfort myself by jumping helter-skelter and waving my peaceful tail to whosoever that is around that will make me happy." If my father had defended this country and died with Topple, put his neck on the chopping block and he was killed with Topple, while the Topple returned and the mass grave, those who were not killed together, even A.B. Topple, who was not killed on that very day, his name was written. A.B. Topple was killed and buried at Camp Shuffling, and now my father, who was buried with Topple, his name was not written on such a scroll. Ladies and gentlemen of the TRC, in memory of my father, I raise his photo to this nation and the listening public. May his soul rest in peace, and let peace reign in Liberia that us all will enjoy. Honorable commissioners and listening public, having borne the pain regarding the death of my father, my mother and family advised me to leave the military. I left the armed forces of Liberia during the early days of the coup. The People Redemption Council had no good intention since the coup was afresh. I accorded with my mother, advised and left the armed forces of Liberia on absent without leave, shortly AWOL. Lieutenant Colonel Harry S. Johnson of the People Redemption Council told me to live with him and go to school. That year, I attended the Pinville Community School, PCS. Following year 1981, while I have forgotten about the armed forces of Liberia, Colonel Johnson, who had just returned from the United States on agricultural sector meeting, after 3 days, my uncle called my attention to inform me about unusual misunderstanding within the People Redemption Council. But he said, but he is not in favor of any breakdown, and he said, and I quote, "My son, if there should be anything to happen while I am away from Monrovia, please do not fight for property, but rather take my children from the town and carry them to Grand Jide immediately, because I am leaving for the interior tomorrow," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, after 3 days, a coup was announced, implicating my very uncle, Colonel Harry S. Johnson, Thomas Wesen, Nelson Toes, and others. Fellow Liberians in Radio Land, the 1980 coup was real coup. 1981 coup was real coup, against those. The TRC government, because Thomas G. Kuwamba will go, Nelson Toe and my uncle Harry Johnson were best of friends, and they were always together. The coup in question, the late General Thomas G. Kuwamba was seriously involved. This was the reason why he rushfully recommended their execution as to prevent the disclosure of his involvement in the Western coup. Therefore, the due process of law was not given to them. In this coup, since indeed I was like a godson to Thomas G. Kuwamba, and Colonel Harry S. Johnson was my uncle, I was also arrested as well, beaten, and was taken to the Dupo River bank and given further VIP treatment. Just within that time, Colonel Gamen, who believed to work with my late father before, immediately intervened for my release, because according to him, I was innocent. After the death of my late Uncle Johnson, I finally left Monrovia for Grand Jide, and I attended the SUA Memorial Institute and the Zwadru Multilateral High School from 1982 to 1987. During 1988 to 89, security information reached President Doe that there were people around planning to bring war. Other sources confirmed it from Nimba County, to include Chief Jared Goyon from Nimba. Information also disclosed that Second Lieutenant Prince Y. Johnson and others were ranking officers. A committee was instituted to investigate and submit a comprehensive report and recommendations. The committee headed by former Internal Affairs Minister, the late Honorable Edward Como Sako. The committee told the Liberian people that Chief Goyon and others were confusion makers. Therefore, the information given was false and misleading, that Mbadians were nowhere planning to unseat the Doe's government. Therefore, the committee recommended that Goyon should be arrested and jailed for lying. In Liberia, as we know, lying is a sport. Fortunately for Chief Goyen, on December 24, 1989, Second Lieutenant Pre-Yelu Johnson and his men attacked Liberia through the Bleaju Bolo, which began the battle music of our 14-year war. When Bleaju incident occurred, the president immediately, when the Bleaju incidents reached the president, immediately the General and Special Staff met and advised the president to recall all the old soldiers, be it retired soldier or absent without leave, AWOL, in the past to help combat the situation. The Liberian Constitution under Article 85 of our organic law empowers the president to institute and increase the strength of the army in case of conflict. The Constitution empowers the president to raise the strength of the army and defend the country in any civil unrest. Regarding my own status, when I joined the army as Bembo, I did not take any basic training before leaving the army or AWOL. After the brutal death of my father, before the war, AFL was approximately 6,000. Therefore, to equip myself for better combat, I took the opportunity to be retrained this time. Subsequently, I formed part of the 2,500 men approved by the national legislature to be retrained and combat the rebels. After more than 90 days of training, another group of university students and some prominent citizens, about 1,000 plus, men asked the government that they would help contain the situation. Their voluntary services without training was led by the late Colonel James Bonru, who was lastly killed for no reason by Minister Daniel Chie, General Bemba Wakona, and President Charles Taylor on September 20, 1998 on Sunday night. I was selected among the recruits to serve as First Sergeant from the B of 1st Infantry Battalion. Upon my promotion, I was sent to Grand Bassa and Lower Minima to adequately combat the enemy. While combating the strong forces of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, NPFL, my platoon commander, First Lieutenant D.Z. Fogba, died in the process. And I was asked by General Smith to lead the platoon until otherwise ordered. I was later recalled to the executive mansion by the late President Samuel Doe through General Charles G. Drew Sr. and was at the Allied Force unit as commander with the rank of First Lieutenant. Fellow Liberians, as we all know, that international conspiracy against Doe was so heavy, such that even some soldiers of the armed forces of Liberia were leaving their mother unit, taking off uniform, running to exile, or joining the enemy forces of the NPFL, National Patriotic Front of Liberia, and the INPFL, Independent National Patriotic Forces of Liberia. As the combat got really serious and spread all over the country, Springfield FE was a limit for fighting the enemy of the NPFL, while the Benson Street Hill was a combat line between the armed forces of Liberia and the INPFL led by Second Lieutenant Prince Yellow Johnson. Before the death of President Doe, our promoted captain, the deception of the international community that led to President Doe's death, deception by the international community in presence of Mr. Sally Thompson, fellow Liberian in Radio Land. Before I dwell on the death of President Doe, let me ask an open question. Who brought Mr. Sally in the picture? I repeat, who brought Mr. Sally Thompson in the picture? Who was he before? Was it a real meeting organized? My own answer would be no. It was a set-up. Doe did not die because of so-called meeting at a port. Doe's death was arranged by some magic hands. I repeat. Doe did not die because of the so-called meeting at a port. The late President Doe, may his soul rest in peace, died because of the arranged instrument of this magic hand behind the scene. Because of the pressure from the international community against President Doe, the late president was forced to agree to leave the country on September 9, 1990, and he was delivered to Prince Johnson as the gift for their plan. Why do I say this? Ladies and gentlemen, outside of Liberia, and also listening public, why do I say this? When Doe was captured, he was traveling with his clothes and some personal belongings, of which evidence Second Lieutenant Prince Johnson was wearing around here masquerading, and also in Nigeria that Doe bought him clothes after his death. People of Liberia, it was better for Doe to die in his protected executive mansion with honor than to die in cold blood and his flesh to be masticated while his skull placed on private officers' decks during the Conway War. Members of the commission, when Doe died September 9, 1990, the next day, on the 10th of September, ecomog again, I repeat, after carrying Doe to the port with their plan, whatsoever matching hand that masterminded the death of Doe, again, ecomog plan with Prince Johnson, plan with Second Lieutenant Prince Johnson to desegregate the crown people and the soldier defending the Constitution. That day, one Captain Kojo, as he called himself, brought 3 ecomog trucks announcing that the President of Nigeria sent a ship to take away Doe's immediate family to Nigeria. People entering those trucks while people going to the port again. Many trucks and some ammo tank had INPFL soldiers dressed in ecomog uniform, and Second Lieutenant Prince White Johnson was placed in one of those ammo tanks. Their plan were, if those tanks enter the executive mansion ground, they were open suppressive fire to take power by force. Fortunately for them, Because I want to say fortunately for them, because if they have entered the executive mansion, they would have met resistance. Because the executive mansion at the time was fortified by God himself. Because nothing was there, men was reduced, strength was reduced, but God was fighting the battle. They did not enter. And also, fortunately for us, brutal connectele, I repeat, brutal connectele of the AFL and I was around. We prevented them entering. No one concerned about the many people Prince Johnson and ecomog killed at the port after those deaths. I repeat, no one is concerned about the many people Second Lieutenant Prince Johnson and ecomog killed at the port. No account is given in any human rights forum, or no account is given in any human rights boast concerning the people that died, only because they are crown people. Equally as I regret the killing of the innocent people as the Lutheran church compound that raised concern in the heart of every Liberians and international community. But one thing I want to ask you, the blood of the crown people is not mineral water. I repeat, the blood of the crown people is not mineral water or orange juice that anyone can get at any time without a cost. No one is more Liberian than the other. If there is capital Liberian and small Liberian, we will have learned it in primary school. As people die in Lutheran church, we are sorry. They have family and they lost their relatives. But equally so, other people die in other places. Massacre and other killing, brutal killing happen in other parts of this country. But we are only concerned about Lutheran church. But also we are concerned about the people that died there. And we regret those who partake in the killing of those people. God will bring them to light. When they got to the port, Second Lieutenant Prince Y. Johnson videotaped them and identified more than 62 persons, including Saint Tode and Peter Thomas. Colonel Samuel Vanny also identified Thomas G.S. Doe's wife and had a child with her. That led to Doe's death on September 18, 1998. Let me make it clear. Doe never went to the port, but his wife went to the port. And she was so beautiful and charming. Vanny never saw any woman on earth and in heaven before. He took her and married her and had a child by her. And because he never wanted the woman to go back to her husband, he found every means to kill this innocent man. May his soul rest in peace. At the same time Doe died, Jim Bonru and Lieutenant Colonel Omisu Seri were also killed that same night. May their soul also rest in peace. Interim Military Council. After Doe died, there was a council that wanted to dish out something. Because the place was free, anybody could take the day. General David Q. Nimler of the Interim Military Council failed to negotiate and convene the ECOWAS leaders to hold on until early election. They pressured him to leave so that the IGNU could arrive. He left and General Ezekiah Bowen took over from General Nimler. Origin of the armed forces of Liberia: disrespect and political disgrace. I repeat, The origin of the armed forces of Liberia, disrespect and political disgrace. ECOWAS meetings arranged in Bleaju, AFL, the armed forces of Liberia, sent a delegation headed by Lieutenant General J. Ezekiah Bowen. General Bowen traded the armed forces of Liberia. General Bowen gambled the armed forces of Liberia. General Bowen sold the armed forces of Liberia feature and suffered the armed forces of Liberia to become a fashion today. Was it wrong for a military to defend a constitution? The armed forces of Liberia has a specific dedicated mission constitutionally and clarified status, which involve the following. The Liberian military operates under a unified command structure that is always subject to the constitutional surveillance authority of the states. The role of the Liberian military shall be to defend and protect the people of Liberia and the sovereignty of the nation against internal military aggression. 3. The Liberian military should be an institution for training young citizens and including a culture of discipline within the society. 4. The Liberian military shall be structured to assume responsibility for setting the standard and guideline for civil work and infrastructure development of our country. 5. The Liberian military should have the capacity to undertake international peacekeeping mission and to provide support for the disaster and humanitarian relief work at home and abroad. 6. The Liberian military should have the reserve capacity to provide under strict guideline temporary intervention to avert or to control the effect disaster. Fellow retired soldiers in Radio Land, I salute you. While in Bleaju meeting, some Liberian politicians considering themselves progressives were, with the influence of some mild facilitators, misled General Ezekiah Bowen and his delegation to agree to the armed forces of Liberia factional status, and also promised the delegation one ministerial position, leaving the rest of the army in a vacuum struggle. General Bowen symbolically presented the nation key to the RGNU government of Dr. Amos Claudius Sawyer. AFL being a fashion, all Liberians were happy. I repeat, AFL being a fashion, all Liberians were happy. Regardless of the breach of the Constitution, knowingly that AFL is a national army, but all Liberians were happy. No one was concerned that Constitution was violated. If AFL is a fashion, like other fashion, why now, I repeat, if AFL is a fashion, like other fashion, why now it can be retired or pension? There are many fashions around here. We have the NPFL, we have the INPFL, we have the Ulimo J, Ulimo K, LPC and Model. The fashion AFL yesterday, today, you are pensioning them and you are retiring them. I'm asking you this question, I'm not against it. I say bravo to whosoever that is pensioning them, but it is very unfair that yesterday you said this person was black, and today you are saying they are white, you can work with them. why yesterday you condemned them and today you're trying to get them peanut money? Liberians, how wicked we are to help one group of people for nothing. Before the war, AFL has approximately 6,000 men. 1990, 2,500 men were recruited and trained. The same 1990, some 1,000 plus civilians were received to help the government without training. After the election that brought President Taylor to power, President Taylor, came with some of his men whose account I am unable to adequately spread on record. The redocumentation and demobilization was very dull and unprofessional, such that the army still maintained more than 14,000 men on payroll. There are some good soldiers who deserve what they are getting today. Maybe the Liberian people have realized that they are national army, so therefore they should receive that just benefit. I'm not against that. I praise God for that. But why yesterday they were kicked out and today you are trying to recognize them? Openly appeal to them that you wrong them. $14,000 men on payroll. Is it that no soldier died? Even the redocumentation did not take into account of the following group of soldiers. 1. Records of the pre-war soldiers. 2. Records of the 1990 2,500 recruits that were trained. 3. The volunteered 1,000 plus untrained civilians. 4. The Taylor ATU, demon forces, malicious, and son of the devil, SOD, brought into the army by General Bemba Wayakona through Taylor directive. These 4 groups of soldiers were to be screened by records to determine when a soldier joined the armed forces, what was his period rank by records on the 2015, which should have been in the Defense Ministry and the Brigade's headquarters. During the redocumentation, everyone quoting their own ranks, their date of enlistment. If the General and Special Staff can tell me that the records were destroyed from defense during the war, but brigade was not burned, where are the records? During the redocumentation process, anyone could come from West Point and say, I was in the army, and I was holding so, and that rank. Normally, a professional army records supposed to be intact on data. When we say that during the war, the documents were destroyed, but those who were around here from 1990 to present, brigade headquarters were never burned. Why should people come from Ken Johnson Road, Clarta, and Blackback to come and enlist themselves and say, I was in the army? Presently now, other people who never took training in the army, they are still in the army because of the dull process of the redocumentation. Fellow Liberians, I knew that everything that is not done properly is not done at all. This is the reason why I, Bleaju, being a bona fide AFL personnel, decided not to go to any process of such dull scenario to be part of it, because history will judge me for not correcting mistakes that have been done in the past, and I will be asked, and my children unborn will ask me. This is the reason why I have not gone there to take any money to be in any of their gathering, for me to be spouted, to take any father that is not well given. This is my reason. I have not been part of the AFL gathering anywhere to receive my own share of money in the door process. Clarification on the armed forces of Liberia, runaway chief of staff, Lieutenant General Henry S. Duba. There are a lot of things that retired general said in his testimony that we chose to clarify equally as a soldier. There's a saying that says once a soldier is always a soldier. Old soldier never die. If the dead cannot speak, why should we lie to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? That President Doe wanted to kill General Duba. This is the reason why he left the army in war. I repeat, that President Doe wanted to kill Duba. This is the reason why he left the army in war and violated Article 85 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCNJ. This is an open question. General Duba was always one of those decision makers in those government. Every bad thing that Doe did, people perceive him of doing. General Duba was part of it. And every good thing that Doe did, that people praise him for, General Duba should receive plus of it. Why should he deceive the Liberian people and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? He should not deceive the Liberian people in his testimony that Doe wanted to kill him. This is why he decided to go, and he also advised Doe, and Doe did not listen to him. The fish began to get rotten from the head. The armed forces of Liberia problem you are facing today, it is not President Helen Johnson as an individual that's suffering you. Your benefits and other rights that you're supposed to be given according to law and by laws, it is because of the small brain of the military that we had at the time suffer you to go this route. But the small brain of the Ministry of National Defense and their so-called ill advisors, together with the Liberian people perception about the armed forces of Liberia, I would like to say, militarism is not depending on one computer literacy achievement. The Liberian people perceive the AFL to be crown people, dominant crown people. The Liberian people perceive the AFL to be those remnant soldiers only committed to Doe. There were other soldiers who were not crowned and were dedicating their services to this nation under the Constitution that protects every one of us. Today, there are many people around here masquerading, bluffing. I'm from West Point. I took training in West Point. I'm a West Point trainee. I'm from Fort Benning, Fort Turkey, and what sort of Turkey? There are equally some other trained people who never went to Fort Benning, who never went to Fort North and other institution of military academy, but yet they can deliver the goods that require during the time of crisis. The Army is a unique organization with a defined structure in terms of operation. in terms of operation and achievement according to FM 22-10, Chapter 7. There are series of war Liberians suffer in this country, and the historian did not give proper account about them because our forefathers were blind. Liberians participated in war in this country. There are other Liberians that was conscripted to fight and help government. There was nothing done for them because they never had people to advocate on their behalf. Our parents were blind and they did not go to school. They were used to be called NOCO. One, during President Arthur Barclay Frontier Foe Mutiny, 1909. Mutiny is the uprising of soldiers disgruntled against government. And when the soldiers all rise and be disgruntled, they are charged under the UCNJ as mutiny. It is equally level with the seditional charge. And in that time, people were conscripted into the army and they fought that struggle. Even during President Howard, 1916, coup rebellion. Those days, our forefathers told us the government at the time forcing our people out of their way because they have power. So the coup people rebelled against the government. In 1916, people were conscripted into the army, but no benefit was given them. But some of them yet remain in the army. During President Charles D.B. King in 1931, there comes the Southern War. People also participated. Our forefathers also participated in those wars. Nothing was done. During the 1960s, Frontier Force participation in the Congo civil crisis, because of the satisfaction in this country. This is the reason why our war has prolonged until 14 years. Thank God for election that God has given us democratically elected government. Mr. Chairman and members of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Liberian in Radio Land, to say the truth, I was honestly arrested and sentenced to jail for my involvement in the 1994 October 14 General Charles Drew military takeover at the vacuum executive mansion. I did not plan with him, but I have my reasons. My going to exile. 1997 President Taylor retired and demobilized 2,585 men from the armed forces of Liberia, including me, without benefit. From among the retired and demobilized soldiers, Colonel Bonru, Colonel Sedi, and I were selected to advocate on their behalf. Taylor was successful to kill two of my friends, namely Colonel Bonru and Colonel Sedi, and I went to Ivory Coast after staying in hiding for 7 months, 2 weeks. Colonel Thomas G.L. Dowey was also killed on that same night, September 20, 1998. Because of the satisfaction of the armed forces of Liberia from the RGNU treatment, ULIMO was formed. Because of that Senator Sawyer and Minister Granny Samuka fraudulent formation of Blackberry LPC were formed. Because of the dictatorial, tyrannical, economic exploitation, tribalism, and ethnic cleansing of President Taylor's leadership, Lloyd and Model were formed. Formations of Model. Mr. Chairman and members of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, people of Liberia in Radio Land, Model did not come from heaven as God provided manna for the people of Israel. Model came from somewhere. The movement for democracy in Liberia, Model, was never known only during engagement of March 23, 2003, battle in Salmi. To be very brief, Model rule came from the diasporas somewhat between 1992 to 93. An organization named New Horizon and New Direction, based in the United States, was formed. According to Thomas Nimle Yaya, the organization was supported by other Liberian and non-Liberians in the diasporas. This organization made serious effort to settle peace with Taylor on round table that did not work. One, Mr. Johannes Zren, the original chairman of Model, and the co-chairman, Thomas Yaya Nimle, decided not to talk anymore with Taylor, but to fight him one day. Mr. Zene, who is a Guillaume from Nima County, the original chairman of Model, and other people in the diasporas began to support Thomas Nimle Yaya in Africa, to find a means of playing Taylor war music. He even used his own finances and also lost his legal relationship with his family. Honorable T.Y. Nimle tried in 3 West African states to see how best he can tune this music that Taylor bestly dance. Namely Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Ivory Coast, he decided to go back because he did not succeed and wait for God's time. However, Nimle contacted the following persons in their respective countries of exile: Atta Bebo in Guinea, Amon Chai and Philip Padier both in Ghana, H. Wale Solo Dennis and Bob Bleaju both in Ivory Coast. I was convinced that I would join him in the project because I was tired and wanted to come back home one day. Model engagement in battle. The movement for democracy in Liberia started her operation on March 23, 2003 in Salmi near the Ivorian border. Model successfully took 7 counties and some districts in Nima within 3 months, few weeks battle. Namely, Grand Gila County, River G County, Maryland County, Sino County, Grand Cru County, Grand Bassa County, Riverside County, and some part of Nima County. The standard operation procedures of Model SOP. The SOP includes the following: the financiers and political wing; 2, the military structure; 3, the standard rule and guidelines of Model; 4, mission, objective, among others. Those people considered financiers, political wing that sponsored Yaya to come to Africa to see means how to get Taylor out of this country. They include 1. Johannes Lane, Yaya Nimle himself, Philip Dwey, J.D. Slanger of Maritime, George Camille of Agriculture Ministry, Dean Wazin of Forestry, John Collins of RIA, and also our Right Reverend Samuel Lu and others. The marital structure of model is arranged in such a way that we will have good commerce control. Model started with battalion structure, which include the following officers: battalion commander, executive officer, headquarter and headquarter commander, various fighting units with military spokesman in presence of boy, Bleaju boy, and S1 office, S2, S3, and S4. The strength of model approximately about 10,000 men. Model aim and objective. The aim and objective of model was to fight Taylor until he see reason to resign or leave Liberia, but not to take power. Clarification on Honorable Joe Wallace's testimony. Joe Wallace and I never discussed or engaging the woman at Ghana Peace Store. Mr. Wallace is only known as Liberian source of confusion. Wallace confessed that, but he had not repented. Clarification on Honorable Community Wieser's testimony. Honorable Wieser told the Liberian people that the Blackberry were the cause of Taylor not taking Monrovia during the auto pause. I laugh. Ha ha ha. How many were they? What kinds of training they have taken? Blackberry were only a handful of soldiers who were only trained to loot. Their Guinean orientation was demonstrated during the auto pause. It was the armed forces of Liberia strongmen that saved the day during the auto pause. Bravo to the following AFL commandos. I salute you. Colonel Sekajiwo Koto, I salute you. Colonel Wallo Mnagbe, I salute you. Colonel Willie Dissing, 7th Airborne Battalion, I salute you. Colonel Joseph Chele, I salute you. May his soul rest in peace, J. Vinicius Fremont. Colonel Harry W. Moluba of the 4th Battalion, I salute you. And General Moses S. Wright, to include my very self, Major Boy Bleaju Boy, commonly known as 220 vote. Mr. Wieser and Dr. Amos Cloyer Soldier and others are answerable to the Liberian people concerning Blackberry formation. Where they take money from? At that time, Blackberry were formed. The legislature did not approve of any formation of the army. How much did they use out of Liberian coffers? Who approved of the money used to train Blackberry? And what have you? Even the Blackberry that was formed during the war is not considered as a war soldier. But 1990 soldiers that were trained and defended the Constitution before Blackberry would have been formed, and Sawyer and Brandon Samuka to learn in this nation, they have been spread out in the army, and the people, children that die and suffer the war in this country have been thrown out of the army. It is fair. We need to have a change of mind and change of attitude. Liberia is too old to remain in such a condition. Clarifications on Dr. Sawyer deals. Clarifications on the Dosoyo deals with Second Lieutenant Prince Yelu Johnson. The Dosoyo and Second Lieutenant Prince Yelu Johnson was always in deal. Even November 30, 1990, Prince Johnson demanded the commanding general position. And the only alternative to this position is to attack the Barclay Training Center and remove the perceived Crown soldiers. How possible? Again, I repeat, how possible? When Emma Sanya arrived, the armed forces of Liberia were already eating rice. How possible? When the issue was brought on the table, Dungoyaru, the ecomog commander advised them and said, do not attack the AFL at BTC. And he was told that Prince Johnson can make it. Within an hour, he will take over the BTCs. And this very day, the 30th of November 1990, Prince Johnson marched on BTC, and he was very unsuccessful. And the deal was, when you go and fail, do not come back. People of Liberia, when Prince Johnson went, he saw what he saw, and he retreated. While on his way, the Guinean ecomog flushed out his men. Luckily for me to know Prince Johnson was not among them, his life was safe. But this was a set out that Taylor wanted to, Sawyer wanted to kill him, because when he go to the barrel, he would have died. "75% of his men were killed by ecomog on their way back." It is true that Sawyer wanted to kill Prince Johnson. There was a setup. Even money was issued in the AFL corridor that Prince Johnson should be ambushed. I'm a witness. Clarification on Meton Bleaju, alias Bodneke testimony. According to Meton Bleaju, alias Bodneke, among other things, he said, and I quote, "I Bodneke killed over 20,000 plus Liberians. Our members of all the 11 Brothers Society in the Southeast region. I and Doe buried the flag of Liberia and the seals in the Jida Mountain," unquote. Who was born naked during those time? Why should he lie on himself? When he became general of Ulimo J, when he became known and prominent April 6, 1996, because of his ugly, sensible May organ displays that time of his nakedness. I repeat, he became prominent and known April 6, 1996, because of his ugly, sensible May organ displays that time of his nakedness. Biblically, the prophets of the Bible time in Israel were told to naked themselves while in battle, and it will be very funny to the enemy, and the enemy will escape from them, and they shall win the battle. Reference in Isaiah chapter 20, verse 1 to 6. Clarification on Veteran Commission. The commission set up by the present government, led by Her Excellency Helen Johnson Sirleaf, is good with a specific mandate. But who is a veteran? Who meets the criteria of being a veteran commissioner? Can a field grade officer who is a major had a veteran commission. Presently, there is no veteran in Liberia because the whole AFL has been condemned. A veteran is to be someone who is level-headed, someone who is trained, someone who is not limited to military science, someone who can deliver the goods in times of crisis, someone who can defend a constitution when push comes to shove, but not someone who is noted for Papa Diapa. Reverend Edwin Lord is not a veteran. We have other generals to include General Sonny Way, and other qualified generals are still alive. Why should we use a field grade officer to be a veteran commissioner in this country after AFL has been condemned? I would like to leave this time to ask me any question from anywhere of your knowledge, even a child unborn. We shall state his or her name. Thank you very much. To leave you, I want to leave the stand and sit to relax myself as I presented my statement to answer to your question, if you will permit me.